Okay, we are here on the Black Widow project. So to recap kind of what we've done before we get into painting, we got the 12 by 18 inch panel here. 10 by 18 inch panel. And the web was done. We've done our candy base coat with our black fade. And then we put the webbing on. And then we did the reverse. We put the red candy and the black fade to the middle. Unmasked it all. And then we did a couple passes of candy straight to kind of tone it all in, and then we used the 40-40 bleed check seal to seal it all up. Let that cure, and then you can go right to the artwork. What I've done here is I put 3 coats of House of Color Rocket Clear because I wanted to level it all out. Because the webs have a little texture to it, and I was going to be filming and doing a lot of different stuff, I decided to put 3 coats of that on it, let it cure, and then I wet sanded that down with 800, gave it a little scuff. That way it's a really flat surface to do. And I can show you what it looks like with wax and grease remover. I've used in House Colors KC10, which is what I use on the Cratex candies as well. I want to be able to show you what that looks like all cleared up. Really deep, really rich. These candies have an excellent depth. You'll see how you can see the red web go into the black, and it's the opposite of the background fade. Really nice transition. I did add in a little bit of that Quicksilver chrome, and what that did for me is it gave a little bit more reflection on the web. It's an option you can do. While that's drying out, let me go over the paints that I'm using. I'm using a couple different types. I'm using Cratex illustration colors. I'm using their Candy 2Os and their automotive. We use their automotive base, medium and fine, mixed with the candies obviously, and we did all that stuff we've already gone over. For the artwork, I've mixed up a purple with a little bit of black in it. That's going to be our ground color for him. I've also mixed up a thin opaque black, which is the illustration series, the 5078. I put a little purple in that too because I never really use black straight. It's too flat, so I want to have a little tone. And then we have the opaque red, we have the candy red, and we have opaque white. What I also did with the opaque red, and this is optional, it's an optional color you can throw in, I used the Tim Gore Bloodline series, which this is the illustration Coagulation Crimson. Love that name, it's really cool. It's a little bit richer of a color than the red, so I kind of deepened it up a little bit. It's not necessary, it's just kind of something I wanted to do. And then obviously you have your 4030 and your 4012 high performance reducer. And the purple I added in, because I didn't give you the number, was the 5076 illustration opaque. Okay, so that's what I'm using for colors. Now we're going to get our mask, which I've already cut out. This is part of the file you're going to get when you purchase the package. If you're not purchasing the package, you can obviously watch the video of how it's done. If you purchase the whole package through our website, you can get the whole cut pattern, which comes with a bunch of different stuff. So it comes with the web we used here, an alternate web if you choose to use that. It comes with the silhouette spider of Black Widow, and then a fully detailed one. Okay, the detailed one has all the body cuts and all the segments if you want to do that. I'm probably not going to use that on this. I'm going to do a lot of it freehand, but if you're not comfortable with the freehand, you can go in leg section by section, body section by section, and pick and pull that way. Gives a bonus little web here if you want to just make him hanging down the string and you want to alleviate doing this web background. You can just have a different color background with him hanging. And then here's a little fly if you want to throw it in, and there's the body by itself with just the hourglass symbol, and that's what we're going to use to pick and pull and put it in. Okay, this comes on the file, and then you cut it out, and you can cut it all at once. So here's the segmented one, it's got all the pieces, here's the body, and this is the silhouette mask, which is what we're going to start with. So, we're going to apply this the same way we applied the mask before. Use a hinge technique. We'll measure it up and get it on there. Now when I do my silhouettes, I typically add little notches, and these are 1/8 inch. And the reason why I do that is so if I want to put an 1/8 inch piece of fine line measured, I can, and then these will just kind of line right up to it. For me, I'm just going to go and eyeball it. I'm going to put it on here. I'm going to run the hinge across the middle. And then we're going to apply it. The same way we did that before. I'm going to roll it back. Tear it off. I'm going to squeeze it down. In this case, I'm just going to use my hands. Then we're going to pull the hinge. One thing I do want to mention, if you do go and use a high solids clear, like Rocket Clear House of Color or something similar, yes, I know you can sand it and polish it in like 2 hours. I don't recommend sanding it and putting masking on it right after 2 hours of any brand's mask. What we're using is the FBS in the blue, and it's really not susceptible to reacting with solvent or water-based paints. So I've never had it leave glue behind. However, if the catalyst from a high solids clear is still kicking off aggressively, it will probably soften the vinyl material and maybe pull the glue off, or you could have a hard time just getting it off your surface, like the mask releasing from it because it's playing with the outgassing here. So I would be careful of doing that. I would let it, even if it's 1 hour, I let it sit at least 3 times that, twice that. If you want to really be sure, you know, I finished this whole thing at the end of the day. I cleared it. I let it sit overnight. And then I sanded it in the morning and I came back to this. So all depends how fast you want to lay it out. Okay, so once that's done here, I'm going to roll back the transfer tape. I got a little bubble there, which is going to matter because it's in the, you know, where we're not painting, so I'm not really worried about it. I'm trying not to put too much pressure on this stand, so I'm going to take my time and just slowly release it. Again, I use this transfer tape for a lot of stuff, which is an AT75 from our tape. The reason why I like it, when you heat it up, it stretches the same rate as the mask itself. So if you're on a curved surface, you can get everything to lie down without having wrinkles or bubbles or things like that. So this is where our spider is going, okay? Remember what I said when I was doing it? Don't bother like really heavily loading all this up with paint to make it really thick, because you're not going to see it. All this little stuff here, you're not going to see it, so it's not even worth worrying about. Which is why I also, if you do build it up too much, clearing is a good idea because you can wet sand it and level it out, so these lines won't show through your artwork, because you don't really want them showing through your artwork. Alright, so now I'm going to back tape. If you don't want paint to get there, back tape it. So I'm going to back tape it here. It's also a good way to secure your panel. And if you don't want to go through that much tape, you can always use the FBS maskers. These are great because you can just do this, and the flap opens up and it goes wide. These are your other options here. We'll use that. How about that? We'll use that up here. You can just fold that back, tuck it around. Voila, there we go. Alright. Now we're in here, we're masked down, we're good to go. You check all your edges, make sure everything's good, and we're good. So, very quick, very easy. This is why I use a lot of vinyl masks, especially for crisp imagery like this. Yes, I know how to hand draw it, I know how to hand cut it, and I think you should understand that and know that practice and be good at it, because you're going to run into times where the mask and the vinyl and the computer is not going to help you, or you're going to be on site and you can't cut a new one, so you need to know how to do it by hand. The benefit to knowing how to do it both ways is you're more flexible on your job and your pricing. Old school way, I would do this for you guys who aren't buying the file. I would have finished this up to the same point. I would have taken the FBS Gold mask, which you could buy in sheets. I would have just sheet masked it, taken a pencil, drawn it out, maybe taken a marker, refine my lines. And then I'd hand cut this and pull out this shape to get to this point. So that's how I would do it. I don't do it this way because now I do it this way. The practice is still the same. when I design in the computer, I design the cuts the same way as if I was cutting it on the surface. That makes it flexible for if I need to go in and do it by hand later. Okay, so that's the key. Know how to do it both ways. Old school, new school, mix them together. You become more profitable, work gets cleaner, and you're more flexible. Plus, you can do this design 20 times. You can do it bigger, smaller, tweak it, shape it, do it something different, add different things to it. It just becomes another tool in your toolbox, in your arsenal of tricks that you can paint. So if someone comes to you, they have a budget, it's not huge, so you can't really spend the time to draw an original, to cut an original, design an original, do it all from there, and it's got to be done quick, it's on timeline. You can pull this file out of your computer, size it, make a few changes to it, and then get on and get the artwork done. Your choice, however you want to do it. That's why I do what I do in this way. So, let's go over a few other things I have here. I have my airbrush widget. This thing's awesome. This is basically a place you can test spray. Make sure your paint's reduced, and then once you're done, you can just rotate it around. Keeps your bench clearer. If you, any of you guys who know me know my bench is usually a mess. Obviously, I'm making it look good for the video, but this has come a long way to keep my bench a little bit nicer. We have our colors mixed up with little medicine cups here, in case we need them. We have Gerald Mendez texture effects, which we're going to use to blow some texture in here. We got art tool templates. These are Mike LaValle's True Fire. These are small ones, so we can maybe get some curves in here if we need to, or sharpen a few different edges. And then I have my Pocket Graphic series, which aren't available anymore. We are working on bringing them back out. So I may have a few lying around the shop. If anyone wants some, I can probably pull some together. I'm probably going to use a little Pyro one here, which just comes in handy with all these little notches. Okay? And then the other key, if you are picking and weeding vinyl on paint, like I said, plastic razor blades, straight bright blades. Alright, we got our paint loaded in the gun. It's time to get moving. I'm trying like hell to get this all done in one take. That way this video just kind of flows naturally and you can see the process behind doing it. So let's zoom in and get started. Okay. What I have here is an opaque purplish color. It's going to mix with a little bit of black. I mixed in the 40-30 balancing because we're on a hard surface. It's going to make it flow better and be more durable on the surface. And then I'm using the high performance reducer. If you're hot and humid out, you can use the 40-20 reducer, a little more aggressive. I'm doing purple this time because I want the black and the red lighting I'm going to do to pop off something. She's pretty much going to be black the whole way. I just don't want to flood it with solid black and then do a bunch of white highlights and be done. It's just not going to have pop and depth. We want to radius things out. I've kept the paint really thin, fairly thick here. I didn't do a lot of reducer, just enough to kick it over. I don't want it really wet, I don't want it puddling, and I want all the coverage. So if you wonder why it sounds a little gravelly, because I left it a little bit thick. I probably want full coverage on this in 2 passes. When I did the first live feed version, I did like a reddish brown color. I decided I wanted something with a little bit more color pop to it. So I went the purple because I think it's just going to be a lot. I think it's going to be a lot warmer when it's cleared. It's going to have a little more pop to it than that other color did. So that's why I chose this color. So if you notice, the paint goes on nice and wet. I don't flood it. You don't want to get it all wet so it moves around, okay? Then it's going to pool up on your edges and you're going to get an edge even with this mask here. This mask is super thin so you barely get an edge anyway, but you want to still minimize your edge. Let it flash out. And for a compressor here, all I'm using my Iwata Studio series, the Pro, which is a unit about this big. I lift it up; it's a little hard to lift up. you know, just about this big by this. Fairly quiet, delivers nice constant pressure, doesn't turn on overly amounts, and plenty of power to run one of these. And if you've seen my work or followed it for a while, probably 80% of my motorcycle custom car work is airbrushed with one of these. I very rarely use my big compressor. That's for the spray guns and, like, you know, the RG2s and the LPH80s. That's what I'm using it for. Alright, that is done. Check it, you make sure you can't see anything through it. And we're still going to be putting more paint down, so it'll be fine. But yeah, I like the way this is going to look a lot better than using straight black at the beginning. Because if you use straight black, you get nothing to cut back into. So now I'm not as forced to go as much like red and grays and things like that to get the black to show up later. I can go in with my red lower lighting, which is what I'm going to do, is we're going to do an up lighting of red from this side, and a traditional down lighting of white. So we're going to have white highlights on the radiuses, and then we're going to have secondary light sourcing on the bottom. That's going to help it pop. And we won't have to have as much black detail to have it show up. That's incredibly important if you're going to be doing this on a black motorcycle with no background color. It's hard to do a black, it's really hard to do a black Widow on a black bike without having some contrasting color in the background. The one motorcycle I have done this with, I put a very faint red glow around them, and that was enough to get the legs and everything to pop off, and I put it heavier on the body, and that worked because you want it really subtle. This way I want it to pop a little more. So, as that's drying, I move up to our next color. I've already, let's see, paper towel here, clean that stuff off. I've already put my paint in the cup, so these can kind of move behind unless I need them for later. And I got a little candy here, let's wipe that up. Alright. Okay, everything's ready to rock and roll. I really wanted to do this video in real time. I wanted you to see how fast a project like this is to do and the effectiveness of working this way versus doing it all by hand. So I'm just going to work it real time. It obviously helps to have multiple airbrushes. So that was the purple color. See, it would cover really well. Now we're going to go with the red, which was this color here. This is an opaque red. It will show up on him, her, whatever you want to call it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to actually stand up for this because I paint better standing up. It's better for the video. So I'm going to zoom in on you, and you can get a closer up look. Let's start with red tipping each leg. Just a little bit of red. You can go in with the Mendez texture and give it a little bit more if you want. If you want to be really bright, we can add white in at this stage and so it'll be a little bit more pink, and then we can candy over it later. Let it go on, let it flash off. I'm going to give a little texture. Not much that's going to show up, so don't go nuts. It's really only going to show it here. There's a problem barely, you're going to see that. But I want it there. So, it just has a little interest up those tips later. I'm going to show you the difference if you add a little white down. Having multiple airbrushes definitely helps. If I want to put a white tip down on those first, and maybe these guys, when I put the red, it'll just cover a little faster. And this goes for solvent too. Okay. All right, so now we're doing the uplighting. Uplighting, we got red light coming up from here. So we have a ball here and a cylinder. Okay, this is kind of how the leg joints are, and this is the body. Okay, so leg joint is like this. So if you notice the lighting, you have a core highlight and a core shadow. So picture a red light coming up here. This is going to have a more red glow to it, and this would be white up here. Okay, same thing with the ball. Okay, so these are the joints of the leg. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to have a red uplight, and then you have the white highlight for the body. Okay, so we know that the spider, this is basically a rounded ball. I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to freehand it. If you want to go to the mask one, you can put the mask in and you can pick section by section. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put some texture in here. Very little. A little bit there. We're going to sharpen it more later. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for you guys. This is really subtle. I don't want a ton here. We'll do more later. I'm going to put a little bit on the bottom of each leg. Now, if you're not comfortable freehanding it, take a template like this. You know what? I'm going to try. I'll show you on this leg here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to do a little reverse action here. Take a template like that and go right along the edge. Okay, that'll make it a little crisper if you're having trouble freehanding it. And it'll create a cool little ridge, a little interest on the legs. Find curves that work for you, different templates that work for you, and go from there. So this one's on the bottom here. You can find that. Well, like I said, you can go in freehand and just put some highlights. We'll give put just the tips of the bangs or pinchers, whatever you want to call it. Bottom of these legs here will pop out. Now I've done this a few times, so I know the anatomy. What I'm basically doing is I'm hitting these tips red. Okay, I'm doing this body here like this with a red glow, that section there, and then I'm doing the bottoms of all the legs. Okay, that's what I'm working on here. If you want, print out this sheet, have it next to you so you'd have a reference, and you kind of practice. You can practice pieces over here before you do it there. Okay? Again, I don't need a ton right here. I can go back in later with white and the candy reds if we want to really make things bright. This is just so I have something to build off of for the black and the white highlights later. So it could be messy. That's the nice thing about using mask. I can, just kind of block in some color and get it registered in. And I can do all my freehand stuff later. Now for the eyes, actually I'm going to save the eyes. I'm going to save those for later. Alright, there we go. I think we're good. We'll get a little texture in here. Gerald Mendez says details. You can't have too many texture effects. going in, doing some little interest. Get some red. And instead, half that's probably not even going to show up when we're done, but it's there now where we need it. Go back out a little bit more. Okay. So I think we're good. I think we're ready to move on to the next stage. So we're into this 25 minutes right now. 25 minutes. We've wiped it down. We've prepped it. We've put the mask on. We've got it all settled in. We've done our ground color, our base tone. Now we've put some texture and grit and entrance and just build the painting up. I start with a t-shirt background. That's how I originally started as a custom painter. Sorry, I've got to zoom back out on that. I started as a custom painter doing t-shirts back in the late 80s, early 90s. So everything was very quick, bold lines, bold color, quick, 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 get it done, get it out the door. It took me a long time in the automotive side to learn how to be more subtle and make it more artistic, and actually painting less is more. As opposed to ramming something in, having to look too cartoony or too flat, or you back yourself in a corner and you can't get out of it. By learning how to build slow and loose and then tighten as you go, your workflow is a lot nicer, it's a lot more efficient, and your end result is better. More flexible for change too. So that's why I kind of work this way, and we're working loose to tight. Okay? So we've used the tight mask to keep everything clean, and then we're going to tighten it up from here. Okay? So now what we have to do is not drop your airbrush widget, but it's metal, so it doesn't break. No worries. It's a very good device. You can find that through Facebook. Colin's on there. We'll link him up on this, and you can get it direct from him. They're really cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lead into the body. Sorry about that. We're going to lead into the body, and we're going to get the butt done, and go from there. So we're going to mask him up. We can do it two ways. Sometimes I'll go in and do the highlights. Actually, let me do that first. I'm going to do some of the highlighting first on the body before I put this mask on, because the mask is going to aid in cutting some of that back. So I'm using my white here. I'm going to break out the micron for this. And first we're going to make sure we're flowing. Flowing good, but it's a little too bold. See how strong that is? I don't want it that strong, okay? I want to reduce it down, but I don't just want to add a reducer to make it thin, because it's not going to really work as well. I'm going to add some more 40-30 to it, or what you could do is add 4004 transparent base, which is basically the same paint without any pigment, and you can make the opacity weaker out of this. So, and this one's not flowing. Let's go back over. Just see, I probably didn't pull the cap off it. I'm just going to do it. We're just going to throw a little in this way because my cap isn't working. So when people ask, what do I reduce, what airbrush do I use, my answer is till it's right. I start with the manufacturer's recommendations of the paint, and that's mainly for spraying larger areas and big things like that. When you get into the micro details, you can play with it a lot more. So I start with what they recommend, and then I play with it up or down from there until I get the result I want. There we go. Much softer spray. So it takes like 1, 2, 3 passes for opacity. That's what I always found the key. 3 or 4 passes for opacity gets you control. You can work things soft to full opacity. Gives you a lot more control. If you use straight white, straight black, 100%, it's going to be cartooned, or you're going to be always pushing and pulling. It's going to be too dark, too light, too dark, too light. So work it a little thinner, put a little bit more 4004 in there, make it a little bit more transparent and weaker, and build it. Or if you're using the illustration base white, it's a little bit more translucent than the opaque. It's your choice. Alright, so same thing. We're going to do these legs. Let's do some highlights. So remember, we'll go back to our shape here. That ridge, that top, is going to be the highlight. So what I like to do is I go from the socket, the joint, here, and I go back, and I go down. Now you can freehand it. I might actually thin this a little bit more. Then you want to find a corresponding curve. You want to make it sharper and just kiss the edge, okay? Doesn't have to be crazy. Here's a joint as well. I probably actually want this a little thinner than I have it, but this is good. Okay. This is the stage where you don't really want the client around, or say, hey, how's it going? And show me a picture. You know, you have to wait. Because right now they'll look at you like, it just looks like a big pile of mess. That's kind of the fun part. It took me a while to get used to that as well. You start loose to tight, things are messy, things aren't so like refined, but it gives you that control to kind of work it in later. Just subtle edges, make things look crisper, and then you can soften them up later. So my brush is getting a little bit of tail going, so I'm just pulling the needle out a little bit, rotating it, making sure it's seated nice. There we go. Let's get zoomed in here. Okay, so we got here, soft, little hot spot, and then come down to the leg. These are all the joints. And don't worry about if it's going to look perfect right now, because you're going to be able to sharpen it after you do the black, or even after you unmask it. And you can soften some things up that way. Lighting is going to be key too. Have some good lighting so you can see. And then we'll get to these leg joints later, because you don't know exactly where they are. But we can do the eyes. I'm going to go 3 eyes. I'm going to go 1 right in the middle. And then 1 here. 1 here. No probably red candy over those. And then let's take a look at this body here. The body is going to be radius, lights coming down. So I want to hit him hard right here, but I don't want an edge like this. I don't want this sharp edge like that, okay? So the trick to that is lift the stencil off a little bit, and it's a softer hit. See that? It's a softer hit. And that's going to allow the softer glow on it. And I'm doing this big one, broad one now before I put that logo in there, so I can come back in, I can soften it up. And then we can hit that brightest highlight later. Alright, same thing here, we'll get this leg nice and bright. Just taking my time and working it. Steady flow, building tone. Okay, all that little good stuff, we're going to come back in. There's a leg there. There's a leg joint. I'm just hitting them in now. I know where they are. I'm going to hit the joint there. Give them a little highlight the other way. Okay. Alright, so that's kind of all I want to do for now in here. So if I want, I can add a little soft texture to Mendez. We can tone some of that out later. Okay, you can even put a little bit of that in the leg, in the center, just give it a little interest. Just a little grit. Spiders don't have to be all smooth. But I also don't want to make them all like crazy hairy, because these ones aren't. Unless you want to do a crossbreed tarantula, black widow mix type of thing, but we're not doing that. Another cool stencil to use in here is Drew Blair makes one called micro dots. The little pinhole dots for making skin texture. I've used that in spiders to give, it looks like little hairs. All right, good. So now what we're going to do, now we're going to lay this mask in, okay? Now it's time for this. So, by working this way too, working loose, I've given that base structure where we put a lot of paint in, ample time to dry, a lot of air movement going over it. So you're not going to have this sticking to it, and we're still going to be outgassing and curing. And again, that depends on how humid it is near you, or the temperature. If it's really cold, it's going to be slower, especially if you're not in a spray booth or like, you know, really temperature controlled environment. If you're working in your shed out back, it's probably a little cooler towards the fall and winter, depending where you live. So working this order gives everything time to dry. This is plenty of time to dry. I'm not worried about anything I put down. It's already bonded in. We're good to go. So the nice thing about using the clear transfer tape again is I can see through it. So all I have to do is line up a couple points, and right now I'm going to go right here, line it up, and I can see right where it needs to go. It's not as crucial. Line it up. Okay. So now, by only using this mask and being minimum, I can drop shadow onto here. I can shadow where all the legs go. I can do all that, then pull this section, shadow that, and I can work my way out of it. My goal with masking of any kind, by traditional, by hand, in the computer, I try to layer things in an order in which you're applying once to maybe twice, and then you're working your way out of it, picking and weeding out along the way. The more times you have to line something back up, the more chance of getting off registration, things not lining up, and things looking messy. So by going in the right order of color and sequencing, you save yourself a lot of hassle with the masking, and you're not overly masking it. The other thing, when you guys are creating your own files, and this is a habit, most guys who first get the computer and they get Adobe Illustrator or whatever program they're using, they go vector happy. They draw every little nook and cranny with a vector, and the machine's cutting for hours, all this little stuff. You're not going to use 90% of it. My goal is to keep it as simple as possible, so you're not using a ton of vector mask. You're putting down the minimum necessary so you can get to freehanding faster. The more freehand you can get into your piece, the more fun it is, the better it looks at the end, and just cleaner overall. So use the masking sparingly. Minimum is key. So what I'm going to do is we are going to go in and now do the hourglass. I'm going to make that with a lot of texture. Other options here, you could use the Quicksilver Chrome and things like that if you wanted to. I don't want to just flood this with white, you know. I want to give it some interest and some texture and grit. And then you can go in and we can use, let's see what we got here. This will be black. So we can go in here and just use our red, or you can go in and use candy. If you use candy, when you pull it off, you want to use a little bleed check sealers. That way, when you put a highlight, it doesn't go back on you. You can use the opaque red as well, which is what I'm going to do, or maybe the crimson. And then you can texture it some more. Okay, so in the video it's probably looking a little sparse. You probably don't see the texture as much. You can see it really well in person. And you can do as little as much as you want. You know, you can go in, if You want to go back in with that original purple color. You can add a couple of drops of it. It's almost going to look black on here. Or you can go super slow. You can take your micron or any brush, and you got a filter. You got the MAC valve. You can go down to almost nothing, and you can just kind of stipple it and spit at it. Okay, that maybe gives it a little something extra. Cool little trick. I'm going to go back to red. Soften that up. Cool. Alright, this is a stage where you can decide where you want to go. If you're not comfortable freehand, you can put all the mask back in and do leg by leg by leg. I'm not going to. I'm going to start with what I have here. I'm going to work my way out of it. I know how these leg joints go, and again, it's right here in your reference. You can look at it. There's like your socketed ball right here, ball and socket joint. So we can kind of pick those out ourselves, and I'm going to use my pocket graphics here. You can use the edge of those, the Archwell templates. I'm just going to separate that right here. Separate this one from here. Okay, see how fast that is? Just a little kiss. A little kiss. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we get a good shadow under that body and around the whole thing. I have this black fairly, a little weak down. It's like a purplish black. Again, I never use straight black. I want to build in tone. So what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to hit those, get good separation of the body segments and the leg segments. Okay. Now I'm going to go in. It helps to clean your brushes a little bit better. I tend to not clean my brush as well as I should. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit those joints really hard. So there's a definite separation there. I'm going to try to run a line right down the middle. Between my the red lighting. And the highlight. And I'm going to want to make sure the bottom has a little bit. So there's only like a little red line there. We want him to pop off that red background there. And like, this isn't true black. I still have my micron fill with true black. So if I want to carve anything really dark, I can. Right at the very end. Just get these legs done. Some little line work, a little pick work. Get those joints out, those leg joints. If you look at your reference to the side, you're really going to get a better feel for where everything is. All those joints. This is a nice separation point. That way those highlights make sense later. And if you kill half that white fade, don't worry about it. We can go back in if we need it. You'll be surprised how little things show up big on this. The only tricky ones is right here, this joint to this joint, that leg's underneath, so we want a hard separation. And there's another one right here. And we're going to use this guy. Just separate that leg out. Detail each one of these joints. See these little black pick lines here? I'm going to be switching from this camera to this camera, so you can see all those little goodies. This piece really comes together fast. If you take your time, you know where to put everything. This is some of those jobs that these things teach a lot of lessons, and it's a really good lesson, and less is more. Okay, so that's on. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'm going to take this segment out. Let me zoom out a little bit more here. I'm going to take this section out. That's why these plastic raised weights come in really handy. Pull it right off. Okay, now I have that segment. So you can see the delineation between these shapes. Now we're getting into the body parts. Body parts are definitely more of a ball, of a sphere. Okay, so we're going to shade those as such. This is going to have a shadow underneath because this body part is casting onto here. So it's going to go all the way around here. And then we want to come down. And we want to get a little bit of shadow under there. And separate that body and make it look a little radius. The final highlights are really going to bring it home. Everything is a setup for the next project. You're going to, the next step, you're going to do a little bit of this, and that's going to set up for the next little bit, the next little bit. And then you get those final highlights at the end. It just goes boom, comes together. So you're going to see right now how well this worked out. I'll pull him out here. Those segments. And pull it away. See how fast that came together? Now I'm going to shadow things out. We'll put a little texture in here for the back area where the web comes out of. And now I'm going to shade some more here. So the core shadow like a ball right near the highlight. And down here especially. And then we'll get onto this side here and make it black. Let's see if we can zoom in even tighter on that. There we go. Texture, texture, texture. And you're going to really see what happens when we hit the final highlight. I'm asking when you clear this thing, everything just pops. Okay, so good. That's looking really, really cool. Why don't we bring in some more little red spots here. Sharper. Make these eyes pop. By putting the white down, these pop a lot faster. Get those nice little eyes. I don't know if you can see them. You know, what I like to do with these eyes is I got to put little highlights in them. I know it's going to sound like a sin to a lot of guys. I use a brush, an actual hairbrush, hairy brush. I go in, I'm going to take a little bit of the white, I'm going to go in and beep, beep, beep. Okay? It's okay to use a brush. I remember, in the day, going, oh, he cheated, he used a brush. I don't know why whoever came up with that. Flow in here. Cool. Very, very cool. I'm digging it. I like it. I think we're just about to call it done. Ready for the mask. Let's do a little brush work. Okay. Brush work is fun. So what I like to do, I palette it here. Yeah, probably not supposed to. I palette here, that way I can see what it's doing, I can get a feel for it. Now I'm going to go in, and we're just going to tap a little highlight there. I got a little extra one there. That's fine. We're filling him out. Ta-da! Easy. Now if you want, you can thin this stuff out. You can go into some of these joints and just hit a few little areas. Or you can do this at the very end, which is usually what I like to do once it's all masked, because I can see if there's anything I want to really punch out. Okay, we're going to do that. We'll save that for the very end. Just make sure these eyes are tipped in nice. Okay, let's go to our final 100% black, opaque black. I'm going through my micron for this, but you can go through anything. The nice thing about the Createx line of paint, actually, a lot of times I find it easier, more consistent through like an Eclipse or a TH, especially when I'm going for coverage. And then when I want really fine, thin details or I build slowly, then I use the microns. This is kind of how I work it. Pretty much already at 100% black, so it's not really going to show up right now. You know, if I want, I can cut back in, and I can hit him, and I can hit him. Doesn't really need much. I think we pretty much already got it where we want it. And the final highlights are going to bring it home. So that's pretty much all your practical painting. We're done. We are at 53-minute mark, so an hour. From the time we started with the prepped canvas, laid the mask on, to the near finish was an hour. Obviously we had to cut the mask, design it, pick it and weed it and get it on here, so some time there. But efficiency-wise, this works really good. Which is why I do this a lot with projects that I'm working on off-site. I get everything prepped and cut and weeded and picked ahead of time, drive or fly to the job site, the vehicle's prepped and ready, and I start laying masks and start laying graphics. It takes a lot of travel time out of your schedule because you're not spending time waiting for people to prep vehicles. You're not waiting to draw things, you're not waiting for approvals on things. You've already designed it ahead of time, you've designed the computer, the client's seen it, you've kind of placed it on the car where it's going to go. You've got that out of the way before you even took off. So that's why I do this a lot. And we're gonna do the reveal. Zoom in here. And we're gonna hope we have enough coverage on stuff. The nice thing is if we don't have the coverage, you can reapply the mask and go right back to it. Line it back up. Good. This paint's out of the way. When this is cleared, it's really just going to pop. For that, that's fine. just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go in. I want to make sure when I get into these edges, because I know we're getting a little bit towards the black area, I mean the red area in here, I want to make sure we got good separation. If there's too much red, it's not going to show up. Remember, it's all about contrast. Okay, we can go back in and do anything a little afterwards. Alright, let's see how we did. Work from your mask out, okay? You want to pull it away and out. Look at that. We're already starting to show up nice. Plug in my camera's about to die, I think, so we may have to do 2 takes. If it does, we might not. It's actually easier when you're doing it in your house than when you're doing it and filming, because I'm always trying to be conscious of the angle where my hands are. Look at that, really popping off now. Even those red tips popped off really, really nice. And see, it didn't go, that's why I'm so glad I didn't go straight black. If I went straight black, it would just look flat, it would look one-dimensional. I can always add more black to it if I need to. That gives me the option. Voila, that's him. Her, whichever. Let me make sure I get that off here. Okay, good. She's done. We're going to add a little spider web into it. Yeah, she's got to be dropping down from somewhere. And so we'll do a little drop shadow here. This is freehand. Build it here, go right to the leg. Over here. Right to the leg. Subtle, just a little bit, okay? Not going nuts here. Add a little bit of texture. Now we're going to do the web. I'm going to go from the button and just tap that, just near tap that leg here. Really close together. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start with black. Go black first. Okay, black, with a nice line. And now I'm going to take the white and just kind of wiggle. Just wiggle around. And what that'll do is that'll make the web look like it's, you know, transparent, because it'll have little variations in tone. See? See if we can get you zoomed in really good on that. See that nice little web? Now I can go here. We can add a couple little things, freehand to it. We can punch out these highlights. Really sell this as three-dimensional. See how those little bits just really bring it home. The other thing that works really well, if you mess up, that little white highlight went a little too far on me, I can just take a brush and I can scratch it out, or I can use my eraser. So we're at the 1 hour mark. I think a lot of us have heard that extra, you go that extra mile, that extra 10%. Okay, well, this is the extra 10%. You spend another 5 or 10 minutes on a 1 hour painting, just going in and maximizing highlights and making sure things have a good pop. It really goes a long way. You know, I can just get a little soft edge here. You know, just a little thing here. I can do some brush work if you're really comfortable with the brush. I'm just going in, airbrush, little picks, little highlights. To quote the master Bob Ross, happy little highlights. For a happy little spider. Minutes. You spend 10 minutes doing this on any of your projects, it automatically becomes better. Right, those final bright highlights on that body. And go back to this one. Remember this trick. I'm going to go a soft ridge highlight here, and then I go hot spot. Maybe 2. See what that just did? So we can glow off these edges. Let's do another one. Look, it's picking up some light on the side here. And we just want to punch them out a little bit. This highlights reflecting up to this one. Same thing here. If we want to do like little highlights here, like this is raised or sunken in shape, you can. Probably go a little black. Just add those. It really looks good. These lights just really pop out. And when this is cleared, man, it's really going to just pop. Little variations in the body, like it's catching a little glimpse of light. Good. Take the black. I want to keep it pretty thin right here. So I'm going to reduce it a little more. Hour and 4 minutes we're at. And just go around and make it your own. Add what you want to add. Highlights, texture. brushwork, whatever you want to do. That's pretty much it. Find your drop shadows where you want them. If you want to really work it tight, what you can do is you can clear it again, look at it, and go back in for the kill for anything else you want to really bring home. I do that quite a bit too on jobs, especially jobs that's getting cleared a bunch of times to be show flat. You know, I'll go in, I'll clear it ahead of time, and then I'll go back in and I'll finalize all these highlights at the end. I'm going to really punch out this web a little bit here. Freehand, work all the way up. And that's it, guys. When I clear it, we'll polish it, take a nice picture. If anything needs to be done, we can add to it later. I think we're good. Yeah, overall, it's a very fun project. A little over an hour. I'll set it up for clear. Put probably 2-3 coats on it. There's no edge. You can get away with 2. I probably do 3 just so I have something I can really polish it to show flat. Clear of your choice at this point. The nice thing about the Createx system is it works with anyone's clear coat. You don't need anything special. I'm probably going to use House of Color USC01, or I'll probably start with the Rocket Clear, lock it down, sand it, and then I will do maybe another coat or 2 of the USC01 and polish it flat, because that's really beautiful show clear, and be ready to rock and roll. So I can probably show you what this will look like if I gently do it. House Color KC10 wax and grease remover, and voila, that's finished piece. You can really see how dynamic it is, how much it pops. So clearing, that's what it's going to look like cleared, and we'll give it a good polish and go from there. Just give it a gentle wipe down. Doesn't matter if it's solvent or water-based system, guys, when you're doing this. When you wax and grease to check something, I usually try to get it off there pretty quick, and I gently wipe it. And we're good to go. I hope you enjoyed the project. Download the file, size it, mess with it, do whatever you want in the panels, do different webs, maybe a silver web, maybe a chrome web in the background and a black on a different panel. Endless. You can do different colors, you know, play with it. Love to see what you guys did. Post it on my Thin Air Graphics Facebook page. Let me know what you think, and we'll bring some more of these to you guys in the future. Hope you're digging it. Thanks. One session, one take. That's how long it takes to really do it. No trickery photography, no high-speed stuff. That was just done in an hour and 8 minutes from this point. So, and the other portion with dry time and everything was probably another 2 hours. So, you know, maybe 4-hour project total plus some prep. Very, very fun to do, and you learn a lot from this. You learn a lot about less is more and being subtle to have a big impact. So, enjoy, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you all soon. Here's the finished product, all cleared up, polished, looks outstanding. Those colors pop, super rich reds, blacks are really awesome, highlights are just perfect. Createx colors make outstanding paint. It was a great project to use these paints on, and using the LeBlue paint mask by FBS really kept the lines crisp and clean, easy to weed, easy to pick out, and not a lot of clear needed at the end. Of course, we used all your water spray equipment, airbrushes, spray guns, and I wouldn't have it any other way. All this is available at Coast Airbrush out in California, where we do the Airbrush Rendezvous and other events, including their Coast Airbrush TV, which has other videos of mine. And I'm really looking forward to some of these projects and doing more of these with you all. So stay tuned, subscribe to YouTube, and I will see you all soon.